Hello everybody, welcome to your Playwrights Workshop Montreal and Jesse Stong provided writing warm-up. Welcome back to episode 14. Where am I? Hi everybody, we're working again today. Sorry about the technical issues. Of course, my to be or not to be warm-up is the one that decides not to be, but we're back. And it's good to see you all. It's good to see some familiar faces. We're alive, we are returned. Today we're going to be working on the perfect monologue, and it's one of my newest activities, and it's one of my most intuitive activities to date. And I know what you're probably thinking is every monologue's different, every writer's different, but we're going to look at the perfect monologue because there is a structure that you can see in almost every successful monologue in history. But I realized it's kind of a good thing. Everything happens for a reason, right? Because last week the episode didn't work, and I was going to try to cram in like 15 minutes of this intense activity, and I realized actually, no, the universe had us not work last week so we could slow down and so that we could try one step at a time. So we're going to do part one of the activity, and then I think part two will be Friday, and there might even be part three on Monday. But the perfect monologue takes a lot of time, takes more than 15 minutes. I want to start by just saying I got a lot of messages. I'll show the charity while I do it. Please remember to give to the Frontline Fund. It's really important, frontline.ca. Emma Tabaldo, our boss at Playwrights Workshop, believes in the universe as well, she says in the comments. I know she's a very emotional, intuitive, psychic lover. So I just want to say that everyone's been sending their thank yous. I got a lot of thank yous this week from people, which I really appreciate, and I love it so much. But you should thank yourself first, because writing is hard, showing up is hard, believing in your story, following that thread, getting here. This is your 14th episode, or maybe it's your first, but still coming here and showing up for your work. Thank yourself first. You really take a second to say, like, you're here again. You showed up again. You're here again. That's something, right? No one's going to believe in your work as much as you, so you gotta go for that. And the other reason I wanted to bring that up, I saw this clip of Madonna on tour, and somebody said, how do you stay so fit during the tour? What do you do to stay fit? And Madonna, like, in her cold Madonna way, says, the tour, right? It's like, what do you do to be a writer? You write. That's it. It's not rocket science. You got to write as much as you can every day, right? There's no trick to it, but there is a trick to the perfect monologue, and this is going to be very contentious for some people maybe, but I have figured out a system on how to crack the perfect. It's like the Da Vinci's Code here, and we're going to do part one today. So I want you to start thinking about a character that has something to say, and maybe you're just starting your story today and you don't know anything about it, so I want you to just write as though you do. These warm-ups are for you to explore, to warm up, to try things, so it doesn't matter if you don't understand or if you don't know what you're doing. Write as if you do know what you're doing. So the perfect monologue, the first thing I want you to think about for this monologue, maybe you have no clue what you're writing about for this monologue, or maybe you've already written a monologue and you're here to enhance it. Either way, this activity will work. I want you to think about every good monologue has a thesis. And you hear thesis a lot in academic work, but you don't hear it as much in theater and writing. But every play has a thesis, a central drive. Every scene has a thesis, a central purpose. And every monologue, every line should have a thesis, right? And a thesis can be a question or a statement. It can be a truth, or a character's version of a truth that they're getting off their chest, that they're saying, that they're finding. Or it can be a question that they're asking, that they're letting into their body, that they're deepening. Monologues, a lot of the work we're going to do over these monologue episodes is monologues are naturally occurring, and they replicate the psychology of human beings. Monologues don't just happen because theater people were like, oh, we need to fill some space here. Let's have someone talk for 5 minutes. No, monologues represent when something is so big, it needs processing. It needs processing to come out, or it needs processing to sink in. And often monologues start with a question, but that's not their thesis question. Often monologues start with something that's wandering towards the question. It's usually part C of a monologue, and we'll go through the more structured stuff next episode. But usually part C, the C section, is when you rip out the purpose of the monologue, right? But we'll talk about that more today. Today I want to think more about questions. What is the question of your monologue? And if you can identify that, you're going to have a central point that's going to be very strong for your writing. Whereas if you have 100 questions, 100 things, it's a wandering monologue, it makes no sense. The first question I want you to think about is, just really quickly, just think about it as you get your paper and pen ready, as you start deciding what character you're going to write through today. I want you to think about, is this character pushing or pulling in this moment? Is this character releasing something saying something that they think? Is it a statement? Is it searching for the words to find a statement, to let something out? Or is it internalizing, asking something, digging deep, finding a question, letting a question sink in, right? A good play doesn't have to answer a question. It can just present a question really well, right? Or a good essay has a statement that we say is true, and here's the proof, three arguments that are going to prove that it's true. Or I have a question that I'm going to ask, and here are 3 points that show why that question is relevant, why that question matters. We deepen the question in an essay. It's the same in a monologue. I'm going to start by giving you 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. And what I want you to do is in this moment, actually, no, we'll think bigger first. In your play, I want you to try to write down in 2 minutes and just go with your first answer. Don't edit it. Don't make it perfect. No one's reading it but you. You're alone in your house on quarantine. So write whatever you want. Be messy, be personal, be unfinished. Try the best you can to write 10 sentences in 2 minutes. Either 5 questions, 5 statements that your play is asking or questioning, or you can just do 10 questions, or you can do 10 statements. It doesn't matter. But you're trying to write down thesis, statements, and questions that your play might be asking. 10 of them. And just go. They can be little questions, big questions. Just see how you feel while you do it. Try to just see what you can do. 2 minutes. We'll go to the fly cam. He's extra cute today. He's passed out, like always, sleep time. 2 minutes. Try to come up with 10 sentences or questions about what is your play addressing. Go for it. 2 minutes. If you have any questions, write it in the comments. Big questions, little questions, personal questions, political questions. Keep writing forward. Be messy. Don't think. What do you think is a question? What is almost a question? What is the play trying to say? What might it say? 1 more minute. Maybe think, what are the characters trying to say? What are their questions and statements? That might help. "20 seconds. Try to get a few, not just one. "10 seconds. Try to write 2 more. Be messy. Surprise yourself. 1. Okay, you can come back to this after too, or pause it if you have to. My next question for you is, look at the questions you just wrote, read them over when I say go, and I want you can do 2 things, or you can do 3 things. I'm going to give you 1 minute. Circle the ones that feel like the most powerful, the most evocative. They evoke the most emotions. Or underline any emotional words that were written there. Actual emotions: anger, greed, selfishness, love, connection, relationships. I don't know what I'm saying. Anything that's emotional, just underline those words. Anything that is a big question that you feel like that's the one, circle it. And really look for any possible images. Are there actual images in anything you just wrote? Those are always what you're looking for. You want to show, not tell. So we sometimes have to tell to get to the right image. And every monologue needs a good image or an object or something to show us what we're feeling. So I want you to look over your questions. I'm going to give you 1 minute. And if you don't have any images in your question, then in that 1 minute, I want you to try to write 1, 2, or 3 images that might relate to these questions. But we're looking for images, emotions, and any central question that feels really big. You have 1 minute. Go. Just free write if you're done. If there's no emotion, that's good, Tamara. It means that it's still very fresh. It's still in the idea world, which maybe that's what your monologue is going to do. It's going to start in ideas and move into emotions. That's maybe what the character is. So for now, just, it's all right. There's no wrong answer. Just try to write some of the emotions now while you have a minute. Maybe the emotion is indifference or blocked. If If there's no images, maybe the character doesn't think in images. Give them an image. See what happens. Twenty more seconds. 10 seconds. Just let it flow. 4, 3, 2, 1. I hope you're writing in a really nice book and not typing right now. I say this every episode and people probably don't listen to me because I know they don't. But if you don't have to type it, if you can handwrite it, it's a connection from your head to your heart to your hand. It's your body's designed to write. That's how we discovered it. So try to find a book that you love, that feels good to pick up, that gets you excited, that's not full of your to-do list and other things, and write in that book. It'll help. It's a sacred object, like one of our workshops we did. So you've kind of identified some emotions. You've identified some objects or some images that might be in this. Maybe it's a memory, not an object, right? But something has to happen. I want to show you a few examples really quick. You think about some of the most famous monologues we know. The first one is obviously like to be or not to be, right? But to be or not to be is the first question of that monologue, right? But it's not actually the question of the monologue. It's not actually the thesis of the monologue. It's where Hamlet starts, to be or not to be. If that was simply the question, it's like to live or not to live. Okay, I'll choose to live. Okay, I'll choose to die. It's more complicated because as he starts bringing that question into him, he starts thinking of images of death, of being coiled, of being trapped, and how much suffering there is. But then he gets to the point where he's like, but to dream, to not dream, to dream no more. And he realizes that, yes, it's not just to be or not to be, to live or to die. It's through being is too difficult, and obviously I want to die. But when I die, I lose dreams. I lose the future. I lose the possibility. It's more complicated than living or dying because there's this ambiguous in-between space of dreaming. And so he gets to that point of like, actually, it's more complicated than I thought. And that brings him to a new place, right? Sometimes the monologue, you think about like the Joker monologue, why so serious? The why so serious monologue. It starts with, do you want to know how I got these scars? But those scars, that's not really the point of the monologue. Or it'd be like, I got them from my dad. He put them on me with a knife. That's the end. No, as he's explaining that memory and the image of his dad doing that and abusing his mom in the end, and his dad did it and said, why so serious? Why so serious is the thesis of that. It's like, if I can smile after all the abuse I've been through, what are you so serious about, right? He gets to that through, do you want to know how I got my scars? And then the last one I'm going to show you, I was thinking is like, well, all we're doing today is trying to find the central question. So you've already done a lot of work, but like A Few Good Men, right? You can't handle the truth, Jack Nicholson. But you can't handle the truth would have been the end of the monologue. You can't handle the truth. So I'm not going to say it, the end. But actually, that's how he starts the monologue. And as he's going and talking and flowing and telling them about the people he's killed, the things he's done, the world he sees, he says, you want me on the wall. You want me on the wall, right? You don't want the truth. You want me on the wall. You don't want the truth. So it's not that you can't handle the truth. That's how we start. That's the first question that leads us in. But the thesis is actually people don't want to know the truth of war. You often pepper the A section with little questions that are hinting towards the C section. And the B section is the images that get you there, the memories that get you there, something that gets you there. So what I want you to do right now, and I'm going to explain that more as we go. Today, we're just trying to find the right question. So I'm going to leave you guys today. We're running out of time. Oh, we are out of time. We have 2 minutes. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. But what I want to leave you today with is an activity. I want you to go for 3 minutes more once I leave you. I want you to just try to write about that object or emotion or image that came up. And I want you to think about, how does that image end? Often a monologue ends with that image being killed, being broken, being thrown, being squished, or being hugged, being eaten, being left behind, right? When we bring up a memory or an image in a monologue, we have to complete that in the monologue. Or we have to leave it with a strong question so we carry it forward. But basically, the idea is I want you to just be thinking this week about, is my monologue progressing or is it digesting? And what am I doing with that image in my monologue? How am I showing that process, right? And so what I want you to do now is just write for 2 more minutes about what's the end of that image. How do you break it? How do you end it? How do you kill it? How do you finish it? How do you leave it behind? Or how do you embrace it? How do you integrate it? How do you take it with you? Every good monologue pushes the character forward in that way. They deepen the question or they push it forward. So you're going to go for 2 more minutes once I leave you. Remember to like and share if you care. It's really, really helpful when you comment, when you like. Also, I respond to the comments once a week. So if you have any questions dramaturgically, just keep pushing it. Ask those questions. We're going to do more monologues on Friday. Bring this question with you. Bring this work with you. It doesn't matter where you're at. I feel like I forgot to say something, but you're going to write for 2 more minutes. I mean it. Just put everything down, close everything up, and write for 2 or 3 minutes about that image or that idea that came up. How do you end it? What's the finisher? How are you going to digest it? How are you going to get rid of it? How are you going to embrace it? I hope that's clear. Thank you all very much for coming. Take 2 seconds to like and share and comment. I'll see you on Friday, Monday. I don't even know what day it is. I'll see you on Friday at 10:15. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.